Hi, how are you tonight? Thanks for joining me. My name's Roberta Colasino, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in the upstate region of New York called the Finger Lakes region. Just checking my settings, and there I am, okay. So tonight I'm coming to you with, really kind of a mishmash of things. So I'm going to be focusing on one stamp set for the actual class, and that is the Beach Day stamp set, because it was 88 degrees today, so I think we're actually getting there. And it's not even going down into the 40s at night anymore, which is just kind of crazy, right? So I'm going to focus on that for the actual card making, but then I'm going to show you a couple of things as well that I think might be of interest to you, and if they're not, I'm sorry. Excuse me, I still have this cough. It's just not going away. So I will turn the camera down here in just a second, and we will get going. All right, my desk is a little bit more of a hot mess today than usual. I was busy all day and didn't get a chance to do too much picking up. But here we go. I'll turn the camera down, and we will get going. All right. All right, let's see. Are we right side up, inside out, upside down? Okay, looks good. Looks good. All right, I have noticed that I've been off camera a lot lately, and I think it's because I changed the position of things. So I do apologize for that, and I'm going to do my best to stay up higher where you can see everything that I'm doing. Okay, so it is May. I feel like it's almost June, but it's May. And this is my host code for the month of May. If you place an order, and yesterday was a free shipping day, so thank you for those who placed an order yesterday. This is the host code that you'll use if your order is under $150 before tax and shipping. If it's over $150 before tax and shipping, do not use this host code because you will get Stampin' Rewards for yourself. And if you have any questions about what that means, please just ask. Excuse me. Okay. So the free shipping day is over. That's always just a one-day thing. It never lasts more than one day. I'm hoping they'll come up with a stamp sale soon, too, because sometimes they do a stamp sale, which is really cool, where certain stamps are 15% off, and that's kind of nice as well. But what we do have going on still for the next 9 or 10 days until the end of May is the Starter Kit Special. A couple of people have already asked me about this. And the Starter Kit Special allows you to get, for $99, $125 worth of product, plus an $82 value in the new in colors, all for free. So this you get no matter what. And they generally send you a paper pumpkin as well, so that's for free completely. You get all 5 of the in color stamp pads, all 5 of the in color Stampin' Write markers. You get all 5 of the in colors in a variety pack of 8.5 by 11 cardstock, and you get a full pack of the 6 by 6 in color designer series paper. So that is a pretty amazing deal, plus still getting to choose $125 of products aside from this, not including this, for $99. And there is no shipping on that. There is tax, of course. There's no escape from taxes, but there is no shipping on this. So this is an excellent deal. It does not mean you have to become a demonstrator. What it does mean is that you get a 3-month period of being a demonstrator and getting a 20% discount on everything you buy after this purchase. And you get that for 3 months. And at the end of 3 months, if you haven't met all of the qualifications for being a demonstrator, then you're just not a demonstrator anymore. It's very simple. Nobody hounds you, nobody calls you, nobody yells at you. You're just not a demonstrator anymore. And in the meantime, you've had the opportunity to build up your stash, get some of the products that you've always wanted at a 20% discount. It's absolutely a win-win. And if you find that some friends and family members are buying things or interested in ordering things from you, and that you can meet your $300 a quarter minimum without spending all of that money yourself, then again, it's a win-win. You can continue being a demonstrator. Excuse me. And at some point, you might actually be getting a 25% discount. So, like I said, there's no downside to this, I promise. So if you have any questions at all, just give me a shout. All right? So the things that I wanted to show you today, I threw a bunch of things in a basket, and I didn't really want to show you all of these things. So I did find at a... at the at the thrift store that I volunteer in, Angel's Attic here in Newark, if you live nearby, somebody just donated a bunch of earrings, and I got these. They're certainly larger than what I typically wear, but they have butterflies on them, and I just ordered one of the new butterfly sets, and I can't wait to use it. So I'll wear these when I'm making some things with butterflies in them. I just thought they were too cute to pass up for just a few dollars. All right, so let's see. I'm going to do this in a couple of different ways. So this also kind of refers to the thrift store, oh my gosh, Angel's Attic, that I volunteer for, in that I donate some of my cards at certain times of the year. So I donated some cards for Mother's Day, and they made up some cute little Mother's Day gifts out of, they took teacups that had been donated, and they planted succulents in them, small succulents. And by the way, that was absolutely adorable if you're looking for an idea for a gift or just home decor or whatever. It was really cute. And they sold those for Mother's Day along with the cards. So being that it's the time of year where we have graduations coming on, we have Father's Day coming up, and we also have the end of the school year where lots of people like to buy gifts for teachers and so on, I made some things having to do with this. So I'm showing these to you because I would like to know if any of my people who take classes from me would like to make any cards like these. So these are not full-size cards, they're 3x3 cards. And I made the envelopes myself using the envelope punch board. I was just looking for one to show you. So this is actually a double-sided Christmas paper, but I thought it looked a lot like a gingham picnic tablecloth, so that's why I decided to use it for this, and it certainly went well with the apple. So the envelope is a 3x3 with the gingham, and it has a little circle closure, so you don't need any sticky to close it. You can just tuck it into the little circle, and I'll be donating some of those for people to buy. And I've also been working on graduation cards. So these use the retired Songbird, Sweet Songbird or just Songbird set. And I did these in Newark School District colors, which are maroon and gray. This one I think is Sodus colors, but it might be others as well. It's kind of a maroon color and gold. I can't remember what school district that was for. I just looked up some of them online so I could see what they were. This one is a bit of a fun fold, and it can be made using whatever school district color you might have. And if anyone taking my coffee and a card class in June is interested in making these, so this is really cute. It flips up, and then you open it up. So this is one that I've had for a while just for sample, and it uses a retired stamp set, but obviously we have more stamps that we could use. So if anyone is interested in making graduation cards, please let me know before that class in June. And I do sell these cards as well, but for now I'm donating the ones that I have to Angel's Attic, so they will be for sale there. Okay, so that's another one. Then this one is just a little bit more basic. It has the mortar board, but it just has, this is the paper that carried over, luckily, to the new catalog. And then the mortar board could just be possibly in whatever color the school district has, and I would use different designer series paper depending upon the color. Then for Father's Day, this is with the long retired, it's been retired for several years now, the well-suited set, but my gosh, it's just so stinking cute. And look at this. I mean, it's got the actual lapels. I don't know if you can see that. And the tie and the collar and the little, what do they call that? A pocket. It's not a handkerchief because you probably wouldn't really blow your nose in it, but it's called a pocket something or other. I don't remember. That's really cute. This is another Father's Day that's just more basic, you know, without the fancy stuff. Here's another one with the suit, but this one I think is blank on the inside, thinking it could be Father's Day or maybe graduation. This is a Father's Day card with the Hawaiian shirt. If the man in your life wears Hawaiian shirts, he might get a kick out of that. And here's another one with the suit, but just with different colors and a different tie. Okay, so I just wanted to share those with you in case you wanted to make them, or in case you live locally and wanted to stop into Angel's Attic and buy them. They're not there yet, but they'll be there in a week or so, I would imagine. And then I wanted to show this to you only because this is something that I just started to make in an art class that I'm taking. So it's a mixed media art class, and everybody else chose to use paint. And I decided not to use paint. So what I used are my Stampin' Up! Inks, and I used my blending brushes. And at some point when I was in Florida, I think towards the end of my stay there, so maybe in March, I did a series of technique classes, and one of the techniques was this one where I used a credit card on a smaller piece of paper or on a smaller cardstock. So what I did with this one was I just took a piece of copier paper, folded in half to make it a little bit thicker, and I would line it up and then blending brush and then line it up and blending brush, and I used, multiple colors. Something's going to go here, but I haven't decided what yet. This little booklet, it could be a mini album, started out life as a, 24 by 18 piece of mixed media paper, and I bought a whole pad of them. And so basically you do the coloring. In this case I used only the blending brushes and the inks. You can see what I've done there. It's just kind of abstract patterns in slightly different colors. I think I used the same maybe 6 colors throughout so that they kind of repeated. And so you've got all these pages that you could put something in, whether you wanted to put photos in them or whatever. And then because when you fold it, the pages are doubled, instead of just gluing them together, which some people did, I decided to glue just sides together and make a pocket. So I have a pocket now where I can put a card that will slip out. And for the card, I literally just used drop paper. So paper that I have that I've used as a background when I'm using the blending brushes, I just cut those out using an old tab punch, but you can use a circle punch or whatever. And I left this side blank. I'm not sure if I'm going to leave it blank, but for the time being I did. And this could be a great little mini album. It could be a gift for someone. And as much as you're probably thinking this is complicated, it really isn't, because basically I just sat at a large table with the paper completely opened up, so the whole sheet of 24 by 18, and just started coloring. What I did do ahead of time, which you don't have to do, is I scored. So this paper is not quite as heavy as cardstock, so it's given me a little bit of a problem fitting in, which I think is why I left that blank, because I thought maybe I would want to back it on cardstock to make it stiffer so it would slide in more easily. All right, well anyway, I'm not going to waste your time with that. So every page has a pocket section where the pocket can pull out and can slide back in. Okay, so that something could be done with it. So if this is something that interests you, I'm going to decorate this, by the way. I'm going to stamp inside of it as well using my Stampin' Up! Stamps. I'm going to use some maybe geometric stamps. I'll probably use some retired product. You know me, I'll use some splotches and some other things, but still leave room to put, whether I want to put photos in here. I was thinking of maybe putting quotes in here that I might type up and print out on a white piece of paper and then just glue that down here, because I like having a booklet of quotes. You could do whatever you wanted with it. So if this is something that appeals to you and you'd like to learn how to do it, whether we do this online and you learn how to do it there via Zoom, or just a regular Facebook Live like this one, or if you attend any of my classes and you'd like to make a mini album like this as a gift, just let me know. But I wanted to share it with you because it's typical. It's using all of my Stampin' Up! Products as opposed to using paint and other things that are much messier. Okay, so now we'll get to the Beach Day stamp set and the Beach Day dies. And when I was in Florida, I did one Beach Day card, and this is the other half of it. So I did a watercolor wash on watercolor paper, and then I put together the card, which used the lifeguard stand and some other things that I'm not going to use today. And today I'm actually going to teach you some techniques along with making these cards. I have not a clue how many cards I'm going to use yet, so don't even ask, or how many cards I'm going to make. And when I talked about drop paper, I talked about something like this. So this was what I used as my background paper when I made this and when I did the insides. But then I could take this and cut this out with a die or a punch and use this for something else. Hi, Sally, how are you? So it's really cool, and so I tell people, don't throw this paper away, because you'd be surprised what you can do with this paper. It could even be a card background. And on the other side, it's one of those things where you're testing your printer and you run a test sheet, but once this is glued down, you won't be able to see any of that. Okay, so what I started out doing, and here's the technique, I guess, that I would show you, is I got out my blending brushes, but I also got out some other things. So first, here is another piece of drop paper. Okay, this is just paper that I use as a background or as a like scratch paper when I'm coloring things. All right, I took some of that and I stamped it with the surfboard stamp. And then I used the surfboard die to cut out. I should not have gotten these all mixed up. I think I just did one of them to start with. So right here, I cut out some of that, and it looks like a striped surfboard. Let's get that up where you can see it. Okay, so that's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool anyway. It's just copy paper though. It's not real heavy, so we'd probably have to glue that down. But that's a technique. Just using this scratch paper, drop paper, whatever you want to call it. Then the other thing I did was I took my blending brushes and I got out some different colors. I got out Calypso Coral, Coastal Cabana, Azure Afternoon, Berry Burst, and Lemon Lime Twist, and just did narrow strips of the color and then laid the die down in certain different places and cut out the surfboard that way. So I've got several of those, I guess 4 of those, okay? And I thought that was another neat technique. So obviously the most obvious technique or the most common technique would be to stamp this in Memento Black. I actually use navy blue, Night of Navy, and then use your blends or your colored pencils to color it. The other thing that you could do would just be to stamp it on a piece of cardstock and just have them all be different colors. So one Lemon Lime Twist surfboard and one Azure Afternoon twist surfboard and one whatever flirty flamingo surfboard, and you wouldn't have to color anything that way either. So that's not really a technique. That's just kind of what would be easy to do. Sometimes I don't like to do the easy. So now I have these strips. These are actually leftover pieces of mixed media paper from that album that I just showed you. So I decided to use them. They're stiffer than copy paper, but not as stiff as cardstock. So I have those. Then I took some strips of paper from my scrap bin in different colors, and what I did was I put them across a scrap of paper. This is copy paper or printer paper. I put them across the strip. I cut off the edges that were kind of hanging over. That's what these are. I stamped it with the surfboard stamp, and then I cut it out with the die. So now I have a striped surfboard that's cardstock, so I had to glue all the strips down first, like this. This is glued down now. So when I cut this out, I'll have a striped surfboard, and that's how I did that. And then the other thing that you can do, which is just really simple, is just to make your surfboard one color, and this is Lemon Lime Twist, and to put your sentiment on the surfboard. That's not really a technique, that's just something else you can do. So I did all this stuff in preparation for making several cards. I have to be honest with you, they had no clue where I was going with this, but that's okay. I got out a white card base, basic white card base. Let me take a drink. Oh, thank you. Okay. And then Pool Party, and I cut this, instead of 4 by 5 1/4, I cut this to be 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, so that I just had a very small white border. And you can make your topper the same exact size as the card and not have any border, but I like to see a little bit of border popping through. So I had this card base already done, but I did want this to be landscape, so I'm turning it this way, and we'll work on this. And my idea was, and I know some of you don't care for this technique, hi Cheryl, but I like to tear paper. I don't know if it's like a working out my frustrations kind of thing or what it is, but I like to tear paper. So today I was tearing some paper. So I, excuse me, gosh, I hope I don't lose my voice. I was tearing some crumb cake tape paper. I'm getting all my words and things mixed up today. And I tore 2 pieces of crumb cake paper, which I would layer and glue on like that. Right now, I'm doing what I call a dry fit, okay? And then this, which is the same color as the base, is going to be under here and is going to be my water. I can take my Stampin' Blends Or I could take a sponge dauber and darken up these edges a little bit, just make them look more like kind of, stormy looking waves or whatever, but that's kind of my idea. Now, that being said, it's only fair to tell you that in the die set right here, they have a die that makes your sand dunes or whatever you want to call it, and they have a die that makes your waves. But sometimes people buy a stamp set without the dies because they don't want to spend the money on the dies, or they don't have a Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, or they just don't want to be bothered. So to those people I say, guess what? You're going to have to tear paper. Or you could use scissors. You could cut it out and make it look wavy. Absolutely, you could do that. I just, like I said, I like to tear paper. And then I got this piece of Balmy Blue to just put right on here. Oh, and look at that. It's not the right size. It's not long enough. I got all excited when I found a scrap and I wasn't going to have to use a whole piece. Okay, this one's good. So that's going to be my sky. All right, and then we're going to have some palm trees on here and some surfboards on here. And I'll show you how I did the palm trees in just a minute, but let's kind of get to this. So let me get my glue. I'm sorry for the shadow here. No matter what I do with the lighting, some days it's cool and some days it's not. Oh, it might help if I turned all of them on. That's better. All right, I'm working on filling my entire space with nothing but daylight bulbs. In fact, I'm actually trying to get my whole house filled with daylight bulbs because I just like daylight. Who doesn't, right? So I'm reaching for something here. I'm reaching for my crumb cake. Are these crumb cake? Yes, my crumb cake markers. And I'm going to take the dark crumb cake and I'm going to take the brush tip, the one that looks like a paintbrush, and I am going to just very gently do a little bit of this. Oh, and I just remembered something else I wanted to do too. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit of this. I don't do the splattering thing that you see some demonstrators do with my blends because I'm going to be honest with you, the blends are not cheap and it does ruin them over time. And, if you are doing so well that you don't care and you don't mind if you have to buy new ones every once in a while, then I say more power to you, but I care. So I don't do that splatter technique, but I think I have told you you can do it by using the re-inkers and using I have it right here, what's called a fan brush, and just get that wet and then do your splattering with that. So that's what I do to save my re-inkers. But in this stamp set, which I've already misplaced, here we go, there is a stamp that does kind of some little grains of sand and some seashells. I kind of wish there was one that just did grains of sand, but there isn't. So I am going to take this and I'm going to get my crumb cake ink, which I thought I had out, but I didn't. My goal is someday to have my inks right in front of me, but on this particular table, if I happen to hit it or bump it in some way, I would end up with ink all over, or with the thing falling down and possibly breaking my window. So I'm thinking that just wouldn't be such a great idea. So I'd almost rather not have all the seashells in here. So I'm doing some of it just second generation, where I'm just getting some images of dots and whatnot. But I just kind of want that just so that there's something there besides nothing. I'm sure that makes perfect sense, right? Something besides nothing. Okay, just to give it a little interest. And I certainly could dig out one of my splotch stamps from one of my other sets, but I'm being a little lazy right now. So instead of putting the glue on here, I'm going to put the glue here because I know that this is too long and it's going to have to be cut off. And I don't want to get glue on my scissors. Just going to put that on there and make sure it comes all the way down to the bottom. And then this is going to kind of go under that. Hang on, I just have to pull that down a little bit more. There we go, because I don't want to see any blue popping out behind there. That would be a little weird. I think my glue is a little clogged up here. I looked at a bunch of cards made with this stamp set on Pinterest and just took sort of ideas from a bunch of them and just sort of melded them together into one thing. Just want to make sure that gets all the way under there so I don't see any blue there either. Or at least not any more than I have to. There's a tiny bit there, but I don't think anybody's going to see that. And then any place I missed with the glue, yeah, I gotta stick a pin in this. There's supposed to be a pin right in there, but of course there isn't. I always worry when I lose a pin where it is. Like, am I going to sit on it someday or step on it? You know, where did it go? And actually, I don't mind if there's a little bit of edges coming up that makes like a little rough and makes it look a little bit more natural. That works for me. Like I said, I know not everybody likes the tearing and the rough edges and stuff, but I do. So you can do this any way that works for you. Do it with dies, do it with scissors. Whatever works for you is fine. I just like that look, but that's me. All right, and then we're going to do the water, and I'm going to want to do the same thing with the water. So I'm going to want to get, are these Pool Party? Oh gosh, no, that's Shy Shamrock. I think that would be very weird. And I bet this is Light Summer Splash, because that's what I've been using. I don't know if that would look like water or not. Let's just give it a try. I probably should use Pool Party. Yeah, it might be a little much. So I'm just going to dab that on instead of going all the way across with it. I'm just going to dab it on a little bit here and a little bit there. Okay. And I don't think, let me check. No, there really isn't anything here that looks like water in the way of a stamp. There's no watery stamp. So we're just going to, only now I've got to get that under there, and I already stuck that down, but not too much. So I can get most of it back up. And if it gets rough looking, probably should have started at the top and worked my way down, huh? That might have been a much better idea. Let me see. I'm not sure where my Take Your Pick tool is. That's the story of my life. I never know where that thing is. I use it so much, you know, you would think that I would just put it back where I got it from when I'm done. But gosh, that would be just too easy, right? Because that has a spatula end that's really just made for this kind of thing. But I'm going to take a tweezer and just yank on this and hope for the best. Like I said, I don't really mind the rough look, so I'm okay with it either way. And we're covering up a lot of this anyway. Yeah, that piece ripped. Okay. So let's just see. That will work. All right. We'll get that under there. Get this one here first. Oh, come on. So I'm just getting nowhere with that. Let's see if I have another glue bottle that isn't plugged up. I usually have a bunch of them here. Right, well, and that one doesn't have a pin either. What's going on with the pins? Okay, let's try another one. This one has a pin, and it does look like it's a little plugged up, so we'll see what we can do. I got these stainless steel pins because they don't get rust in my glue, but they bend really easily, so I'm a little disappointed in them. Little disappointed, not gonna lie. Okay, there we go. Good grief. And I'm not gonna put the glue all the way up to the top this time, you know, because sometimes I learn by my mistakes. Sometimes I don't, but sometimes I do. We'll get that under there. I really want to get it under that piece, though. Well, all right. And then this can go under that. And big fan of that coloring there. Not a big fan at all. I might have to see what I can do about that. And then we've got our sky. That's going to go under that. And I know you're thinking this piece looks awfully big, but I just kind of want to get it in there. And then I can pull out my trimmer and I can trim it. And then I won't waste so much of it. So there's my sky. My huge sky. And then we're just going to turn that over. And I'm going to get out my trimmer. Put that in my scrap bin. And then the other pieces I think I'll do with my scissor, because I think that will just be easier to do with a scissor. You use the back just right. Okay. So there we go. So this is definitely, you know, kind of improvisational, I guess I would say. So there's my sky. I was also thinking, but I'm not going to get the machine out now, that there is there's a die in there that cuts out the beach ball, and I thought that might make a nice sun, but I could rip a sun too, but I won't do that. And then I've got this whole cup full of palm tree parts. So I used crumb cake for the trunks, and you see it comes out there, they have little score lines or whatever. And I used different shades of green for a couple of different reasons. I also have grass, and I used different shades because I thought that was kind of more natural. So I wasn't sure. Each palm tree is supposed to have, that's not a palm tree, that's grass. Each palm tree is supposed to have 2 of these on it, you know, to make it look more full. So you put one on that way and then put another one on this way. I kind of liked it with the 2-tone, but if you don't, then you could make yours all one color. So it might be easy to just put it together first. Make sure you have it lined up the way you think you want it. I'm not sure that there really is a right and a wrong way, but that's kind of what I'm doing with it. You could twist it this way or that way. I don't think it would matter. And then this would have been a really good thing to use the adhesive sheets on. And one of these days I will actually remember to use them. But in the meantime, I'm telling you, I have such a blockage when it comes to using these things. So I'm going to put that one down a little bit further. And then I can put this on top. I could put this on with a dimensional, but it seems like there's kind of some dimension there already from that torn paper kind of sticking up a little bit, so I don't think I will. I think I'll just glue it on. This really can't hang over the edge too much, so I have to be careful because I didn't leave myself much of a border. So I think that should be okay, and if it's not, you know what, I could always cut a little piece of it off. So that's one palm tree. And maybe that's all I want for now, because now I want to reach for my surfboards that I did with the blending brushes. And I want to have a bunch of these surfboards. So not like I really know what I'm talking about, but at least in the movies, you know, the surfers take their surfboards and stick them in the sand, and they stand up in the sand. That's what I think surfers do with their surfboards. I was in Malibu, California once, and I did see that happening. Here I am. I'm off camera again. I am so sorry. I've got to do something with this tripod because that just keeps happening. So we'll have one standing up kind of by the tree. And then I think I would like to get some dimensionals. But once again, I have to stop taking the dimensionals that I have in my craft room to classes and keeping separate dimensionals. Because every time I take them out of here, then I don't have them when I need them. I do have glue dots, and glue dots can work a little bit like a dimensional if you want a little dimension, but not a lot. The other thing that you can do is put on one glue dot and then put another one on right in the same spot. So it gives you a little bit of lift without making it too high if you just don't want it too high for some reason. So that's another thing that you can do. Well, those two are very similar colors, so I'm going to not use that one over there. So same thing, you just take one glue dot and then put the next one in the same exact spot. If you didn't really care how many you used, you could probably do 3 glue dots. And then do the same thing on the top. one glue dot and another one, and we'll put that there, and maybe they're not going to be all perfectly straight because why would they be? So we'll have one going off to the side a little bit. To me, this is just a fun card. I love all the color on it. It certainly reminds me of summer and beachy times, even if I don't actually do anything that even remotely resembles surfing, because I would just fall off and break something. So surfing's never going to happen in my life, gotta tell you. Not gonna happen. I'm not even sure I could stand up. I think I would just be sitting on it, laughing and not standing up. My daughter does the paddle, boarding where you stand up and paddle, and I don't know how you stay standing up on that thing, especially if you hit a wave or something. I have no idea how you do that. So now we've got all of these, and I've got them tucked in nicely in there. So there's our surfboards. We do have a stamp that has some birds, and I think when I did my other, actually I'm going to pull that out too. When I did my other card back in whenever that was, March or whatever, I think I just made birds. So if you don't have a bird stamp and you just take like a fine point black Sharpie marker or a nice like black gel pen, and of course I can't find one of those either. So this one's blue, so we'll just pretend, okay? And you just take a piece of paper and you can just literally go kind of like that and make birds. They're very kind of abstract. They certainly aren't real looking necessarily, but they're just fine. So I'm going to put this on a small block, and where's my Memento ink? I had it out here. Here we go. So we're probably just going to want to make these black. And I know seagulls are not all black, but it would be hard to show this using white. There we go. Well, and actually now they're blue and black instead of white and black. But you get the idea. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? It does not have to be perfect. And maybe we'll put another one right there. Those are the seagulls that are going to dive down and get your hot dogs off of your grill, because I literally had that happen one time. I also have this little stamp here that looks like seagrass. So you have the, like, sea oats, are they called? The ones that really just look, they're brownish, let's put it that way. And then you've got this grass over here. So I wondered that might be a little something else to stick over here. I'll just put my thumb in it for some extra whatever. Just kind of put it here and there. And I may end up covering some of that up with the grass, but that's okay. I'm just going to kind of scatter this around. So it's here too, and that also acts to give a little more interest to that. And then we can take some of this and scatter this around as well. Although I'm thinking I really don't want to use too much because I kind of like the way it looks almost right now. I don't know how much more I want to do, but just maybe a little, just for some more color. And then take a darker one and put it kind of right over the top of that one so that it's kind of half showing and half not showing. And then maybe a slightly different shade of green over here where we don't have too much. And then maybe this one could have a lighter shade next to it. And then maybe that's just all we'll do about that. I don't want to overdo it. All right, again, this might have been a really nice place to use your adhesive sheets for sure. So I think I'm going to set those aside. Might do something with them. I might not do something with them. I'm not sure. And then this now can get put on my card base. Let's burnish that down a little bit so it stays. I don't think that's the one that was working. I think this is the one that was working. There we go. So I don't remember last week because I don't remember breakfast. So I don't remember last week if I mentioned to you about how my Kiwanis Club was having a kind of a meet and greet. We had that last night and it was amazing. We had an excellent turnout and we had people who walked in the door already like asking, what can we do? What can we do to help our community? I want to share my ideas with you. You share your ideas with me. There we go. And I think we have at least 5 to 7 new members out of that. So I just could not be happier. So we could put a sentiment on the front of this, but sometimes I think when you've got a card that's really pretty and has a lot going on, don't put a sentiment on it. Save this card and put a sentiment on the inside when you know what you really want to use it for, because maybe it will end up being a birthday card. And I could take this one here, even though I didn't do this one with blending brushes. I could glue this on the inside too, just to kind of keep the theme up. This was actually a Halloween trunk or treat flyer on the back on the other side, but no one will ever know that. No one will ever know that. And then maybe a couple of pieces of this grass could go there. Or maybe just one piece of the grass. Maybe we'll just do one. So I could not be more excited about how last night went. The folks at Parker's were great to us. We had some really good food. I haven't had chicken wings in I don't know how long, and there were a few left over and nobody wanted to take them. So, I had to take them because we don't waste food. And once I took them, well, I had to eat them, right? So, yeah. Okay, so there we go. And now this can be a birthday card. It can be a missing you card. It could be inviting someone to a beach party. It could be anything. So don't necessarily put a sentiment on the front and then you just kind of don't have to worry about it. So like I said, I personally think this is a fun card. I'm not so happy with that coloring and I might try to do something a little bit different with it. I'm just not quite sure exactly what, but we'll see what I can do with it. All right, so then for another one, I don't know if we want to use the surfboards again. I don't want to use the, what do you call it? I don't want to use the, I can't think at all today. I don't want to use the lifeguard tower again. That's what I'm trying to say, because I used that one before. I'm also wondering about just some slightly different colors. So I have some Calypso Coral here as a card base, and that's kind of a beachy color, even if it's not the color of the actual beach, but it might make a nice background, and maybe it would just be a good time to bring in some white and have the front of the card be white. But let's cut this one so that we're seeing some of the Calypso Coral. So let's cut this one to be, I want to do 3 3/4. Let's do 4 by 5 1/4 and see how it looks, and then we can go from there and decide if we want to make it smaller. So 4 by 5 1/4 is your typical top layer on a card. So let's see, that lets us see some of the Calypso Coral, but not a lot. If we want to see more of the Calypso Coral, then I'd have to make that a little bit smaller, but I don't want to overdo it, because if I'm going to try to make this look beachy, I'm not really sure how the beachy look is going to look up against the Calypso Coral, if that makes any sense, but yet I wanted to use it. So now, however, I know I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, if I wanted to use the surfboards again. Now I do have the die, but for me it's just really easy to cut this out quickly with the scissors, then to turn around and pick up the machine, and that requires effort. So I'm thinking I'm going to use this one because it has some Calypso Coral in it. So maybe this one I'll just use one surfboard and we'll just go for a totally different look. Actually, that's a little Calypso Coral on the top of that one too, I think. So let's just see what we could do here. So maybe, I do have some more. So there's no stamp, right? There's no stamp that really looks beachy. So wait a minute, I'm missing an opportunity here. So what if I took my blending brushes, so I did watercolors one other time, but what if I took my blending brushes, and what if I took my crumb cake ink, and let's get another piece of scratch paper here, and what if I just create, I think I need re-inking here, but the nice thing about using the blending brushes is that you can keep adding color, and you never want to start with too much color because you can keep building it and adding it. But if you get way too much color on there, then you're kind of stuck because there's no way to erase it, no way to get rid of it. So I'm just going to kind of go around in a circular motion for now to build up the color. And then what I'm going to try to do is do kind of like a little archy thing where I'm actually creating some sand dunes, some sand, you know, some texture in the sand, some height difference in the sand. So maybe over here there's a dune that's bigger. I'm just going to try to build some height there. And the fact that the color is not totally even is really okay because that's what sand looks like. The way the blending brushes work is that if you really want the color to be even, then you would keep blending until you got it even. But I'm not sure at all that I want it to be even. So I'm going to go a little bit darker along the bottom. And then with whatever ink is left, I'm just going to keep making those little arches and see what kind of a look I can get out of that. The other thing that you could do is you could take a piece of paper, like this is a Post-it note. Might not be the best choice because it's kind of thin. But what if I were to take a Post-it note and put that down here, and then start blending over that Post-it note a little bit. And I would get some, well I didn't, but I would get some lines if I kept doing it long enough. There we go. Do you see how that's coming out? It might be a little hard to tell, hard to see, but I'll hold it up in a minute and show you. If you still have your border dies, you could do this with the border dies, either by cutting or just by creating a template to do the same thing that I'm doing here with. Alright, so what's happening now using that is that you can see, I hope you can see, I've got some, they're faint, and that's kind of how you want them, some faint lines on there that let you see the kind of sand dunes. Alright, so that's another way of doing that. Let's leave that out for now, and then maybe get that little stamp with the seashells and other stuff on it. I've got it on a block that's way too big, just so you know, it's not good to use a block that's overly big for what you're doing, because what ends up happening is that you get ink on the edges that ends up on your stuff, on your paper. Alright, so I'm just going to do the same thing I did before, stamp off a couple of times and just make some texture. There we go with that. That looks kind of good, so that's another way to create a beachy kind of a scene. And then I could also get out a blue blending brush, got one right here, and I've got Coastal Cabana, so that's kind of nice for ocean waves. So now I could use the blue blending brush and get some ocean in there. And one of my favorite colors for mixing with other colors to get a good-looking ocean was, oh my gosh, what was that color called? It just retired last year, I think. Oh, it's not coming to me now. But I decided at one point that it was good for oceans. It was also good for skies. And I wondered about the blueberry bushel, because the blueberry bushel is similar. I also wonder about Azure Afternoon, which is not similar, but I think it might be nice for a sky. So let's just see what that looks like. I want to be a little bit cautious because this is a new pad too, so it's kind of dark. I did decide at one point that I wasn't thrilled with Balmy Blue as a sky. It was almost too light. It at least for the way the sky looks some days. So I stopped using Balmy Blue for sky, or I would mix it in a little bit of Balmy Blue, but with other colors. So I think I like the Azure Afternoon for the sky, but I feel like there needs to be more of a differentiation. So I'm just going to wipe that off a little bit and go back to my Coastal Cabana and see if I can make the ocean a little bit darker, because certainly in some Caribbean places the ocean is just as pretty as that, but most of the time it's much darker. Okay, so if you look now, you can see that we're getting like this white line between the sky and the ocean, and you don't want that. So this is where you come in with your blending brushes, and this is why they're called blending brushes, and purposely go over the ocean with the sky color, and then clean it off a little bit and come back in with your ocean color and purposely go over a little bit of the sky color with that, so that you are blending them together. And in the middle, instead of having white, you're having a mixture of the Coastal Cabana and the Azure Sky. And I think that's very pretty. I think I want a little more of the sky. I've missed a few spots here up at the top and this little corner here. So I'm going to come back in again, and then I might come back in again with the Coastal Cabana. And again, you can see I'm building up color, and that's what you want to do instead of trying to get too much on there at first, maybe because you just don't have the patience and you just want to get it done. But sometimes that ends up being something you're not at all happy with, so I don't recommend it. You just do have to have a little bit of patience. All right, and I'm happy with that at this point. So that wasn't even what I was planning on doing, but I like it. I wasn't really planning at all, but I had several thoughts in my head, let's put it that way. And this was not one of those thoughts. So it could be as simple as just having the beach with the surfboards, and maybe the surfers are off someplace else. Or we could add some other things. We could add another palm tree, but I don't want to make this too similar to the previous card. Or we could add some different stamps, like we could add the umbrella. And I was going to say that the umbrella, is there an umbrella die? Yes, there is an umbrella die. The umbrella could be made in a similar way that I made this for the surfboards. So it could be made using stripes of paper instead of coloring it. But for now, I think I'll color it. So I'm going to stamp it, I think, in, what did I have? I thought I had Night of Navy out here. I put it away. Imagine that. So I'm going to stamp an umbrella over here in Night of Navy. And then I can use my blends. I could use my colored pencils. I could even, well, no, maybe not. Just trying to remember. I think that was, what was that? Was it Berry Burst? I think it was Berry Burst. I don't know if I have a Berry Burst markers or not. I honestly don't remember if I got those. Oh yeah, I do. It's nice when you remember what you have, huh? So how about, and of course the Berry Burst will look a little bit different because I'm coloring over the blue. So it's going to look just a tiny bit darker, I think. And then what if I do this side Berry Burst too? I think I just went right out of the lines there. And normally if you go to the lines, you can use the color lifter, but I don't know what the color lifter would do to my blended ink here. So I don't want to try that. And let's use some, whatever that color was, Coastal Cabana for this. So this would be brighter if I did the paper piecing and then die cut it out so that it had the really bright cardstock. And then maybe we could put, let's get that out of there, and let's get the chair. Because you can't have an umbrella without a chair, right? You have to have someplace to sit under when you have a chair. There's our chair. And now that I put the markers away, of course, I realize that we really need to color in that chair, because right now it looks like it's see-through. So I'm going to get out the berry burst again, so the chair matches the umbrella. And we'll just color the fabric or the canvas, whatever this is, on the chair. I haven't seen a chair like this in ages. Do they still make this kind of chair? I remember them being very comfortable, but I also remember them breaking a lot, and then you ended up in the sand. Okay, and then we've got these. And again, I would probably pop one of these up. How about if we have one standing up in the sand and one laying down in the sand? And then maybe, I don't want to do the grass or the tree. I think I want to kind of leave it at this, and I'm just going to put some more of this seagrass or whatever it is scattered around, just because I really like the way it looks. It's kind of feathery and pretty. Okay. And then we could take this surfboard that I stamped with "Enjoy Today" and just put that in there. So again, this could be a birthday card because you're saying enjoy today, and maybe what that means is enjoy your birthday today. And maybe it means something else. Maybe it just means you're saying hello and you hope they're enjoying their day. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. And then we'll put that on this base just because we can. And I like the blended look, but it's definitely different from the watercolor look. So here's a watercolor look with sand and ocean and sky, and it's very different. The blending is definitely smoother, and you get a deeper color, or you can get a deeper color. You don't always get a deeper color, but if that's what you're going for, you certainly can. All right, so let's get some of this stuff out of the way. And I'll show you these two cards. So there really are two very different cards, even though they both have surfboards on them. So I hope that you enjoyed those cards. I've got to get a liner in that one. And just remember the cards that I showed you, the teacher gift cards, the Father's Day cards, and the graduation cards. And let me know if you need any of those, or if you would be interested in making any of those, or if you'd be interested in making the mini album. All right? So please take care and have a great rest of your week, and I will see you 1 week from tonight.